Namaskaram. Welcome to PGurus. I'm your host, JK. As you all know, Sree Iyer has been writing a lot of book, and thank you very much for buying it and subscribing to our thoughts and ensuring that it reaches more people through the discussions about the book. So we thought we could also try to promote nationalist views and books written by nationalists. So today, I'm really proud to introduce a new guest who is author of a couple of books, Major Saras Tripathi, an ex-army officer. He has also worked as an HR professional as well as in airport. So, in fact, a plethora of experience that he carries. And he also gonna talk to us about why he chose to write a couple of books, one of them being this one, Silent Constitution, Dangerous Consequences. So let me go ahead and invite our guest for tonight. Namaskaram.
Namaskar.
We know that you've been writing books and a couple of them have already been published and people have been purchasing it. But let's discuss this one, right? We recently, very recently, maybe because more like a dream come true, our Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, introduced something new, entirely new law and rules, Bharat Nyaya Samhita. Let's talk about your book rather. So, what made you write this book? Why you are talking about silent constitution? Because we know that it's kind of loud. We hear that in a lot of judgments. Laws are made to ensure citizens are being properly protected and all their rights are being maintained. So, what was your urge to write this book?
Uh, Thank you so much for having me on your show. And you have asked a very good question for a beginning. When I was serving in Kashmir under Armed Forces Special Power Act, I realized that the root cause of Kashmir problem is the constitutional position of the state. Under Article 370, which is now known to everyone, which has been partially repealed, Jammu and Kashmir state has a special status. So, laws passed by the Parliament of India were not applicable until the Assembly of the state is also passing the same law. It will remain inoperational in Kashmir. And so, we encountered many problems, and including the problem in Kashmir, we realized that the problem originates because of the constitutional provisions, because of the laws that we have enacted or absence of them. Most of the problem originate from there. In this book, I have enlisted 21 laws that either needs to be enacted or needs to be amended or needs to be repealed. So that is how the book originated.
Right, I guess there are, and it's not a very big book. It's just 160 pages with 15 chapters. And I guess you have kind of spoken about UCC, Hindurastra, right? You have written about Hindurastra in this book, I guess, whenever this was written. So you kind of, do you think that we are in a position now to push for Hindurastra?
See, I believe that nothing is impossible. We have seen the unification of Germany. We have seen the disintegration of the largest empire or largest state on the earth, that is USSR. So, changing the constitution or amending this is the concept of Hindurastra is just amendment of the constitution. Many people say that we already are a Hindurastra because any nation is recognized by the majority of the people by its original culture. Like Arab is called always Arab, a Chinese is called a Chinese. Indian will certainly be called a Hindu because we are Hindi. But the point is, it is not enough. In our country, why we need Hindurastra is the constitution that we adopted has a lot many contradictions. And Dr. Ambedkar himself had said that any constitution is as good as people manning it. A good constitution may turn bad if people who are manning it are bad, and a bad constitution may also serve a very good purpose if people who are mining the constitution are good. So the point is, our constitution originally started with very good note, but later on, because of its own contradictions, like I'll give some example, it says that there will be no discrimination based on caste, creed, region, religion, race. But from very beginning of the constitution in 1951, the system of reservation was introduced, that is discrimination based on the caste. There are people who are out of the reservation list, but they are very poor, but they are not getting any benefit from the government, any assistance from the government. So it is a contradiction of the fundamentals of the constitution. By enacting laws, making provisions or amending constitution, we have ruined the constitution to a large extent. Second thing, you see, in any statecraft, even if you read Chanakya or any political thinker, the rights and responsibilities goes together. The king has the maximum right, but he has maximum responsibilities also. In our constitution, if you see, it is completely in contrast with the law of the nature. Like from Article 14 to 21, there are individual rights, and then up to Article 35, there are rights. We are talking about rights in almost 20 articles. Whereas in original constitution, there is no mention of the duties of the citizens. Mrs. Indira Gandhi during emergency introduced 10 duties, but they are not, they have not equal status of the fundamental rights because they are not enforceable by the court of the law. So they are as good as decorative pieces, or their status is as good as directive principles in the constitution. So this is another contradiction in the constitution. Then you see the spirit of the constitution is secular, where there is no discrimination based on religion. But Article 25 to 30 itself says that the minorities will have special rights. And as you know, the minorities have the right to run their educational institutions where 50% of the seats are reserved for the minorities. They can run their own schools, teach their ideology, their theology. But Hindus cannot do that. There is no restriction, but there is no support also. I mean, in case you want to run the pathshalas or the dharma schools, you have to purely run on your own risk as well as on your own finances. Whereas these madrasas are being funded by the government. So the point is, I just gave 3 examples, that there are very deep contradictions in the Constitution of India. So that is why I said it needs to be amended. Similarly, now coming to the last and most important point, that was actually the crux of the question and answer about the Hindurastra. Why it is required? Because Hindus actually have become the second-class citizen. Like I'll give example, I have written in this book also. There are 9 states, that is 6 states and 3 union territories, where Hindus are minorities, but they don't have any minority right. The rights of minorities are there with the majority community. Like take an example of Kashmir. 64% of the population is Muslim in the entire union territory, but in Kashmir Valley, Muslims are 98%. But you will be shocked to know that the minority privileges go to Muslims, not to Hindus, who are not even 1%. So this is a great discrimination, rather crime being perpetrated on Hindus. Similarly, in Mizoram, Manipur, and Nagaland, all these states, they are Christian dominated. But minority rights are with the Christians, not with Hindus. Hindus don't have right to open their religious institutions and run like the minorities are running. That is why I said Hindurastra is required, so that Sanatan Dharma is protected. One most important point I want to make here, that is, there are 201 countries in the world, including 5 non-recognized by the UN and 196 recognized by the United Nations Organization. Out of that, 33 nations are Christian dominated. There is a map also in the book, and 58 are Muslim dominated, I mean where Muslims are majority. There are only 2 countries that are Hindu majority, that is India and Nepal. Out of 133, 27 countries are theocratic in Christianity, 23 countries are theocratic in out of 58 Muslim dominated nations, whereas there are 2 countries Hindu dominated, both are secular. So the thing is that who will secure the Sanatan Dharma? And if you see the map, only in South Asia Hinduism is persisting. Rest of is covered by Muslims and the Christians. So our religion, which is the oldest and most scientific religion, needs to be protected. That can only happen when India becomes Hindurastra.
Well, I guess though the answer was elaborate, I guess I don't think anybody will have any doubt why you kind of wanted to go for Hindurashtra. The other thing I see in the book is you're coming down heavily on Hindu religious and charitable endowment, right? So, and I guess you are blaming the erstwhile politicians for that. Example to name Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. So, why do you think he made? What do you think he made is making us feel second-class citizen in terms of HR and CE?
In fact, this was started by the British. They wanted to, because they had seen that there is so much of wealth in Hindu temples, and they wanted to have control over Hindu temples. So much of gold, so much of money. Even if you see the Guru Ayur temple, if I am correctly quoting, 1,50,000 crore worth of gold and precious metal, precious what you call stone. I mean, that
Yeah, I
is the
guess.
property.
Yeah, I guess you're talking about the Tiruvananthapuram Anantapadmanabha Swami temple.
Yes, yeah. Tiruvananthapuram temple. And in Tirupati also, you see how much money comes. I have given the data and it is available even on the net. The point is, they saw so much of wealth in the temples. They thought that we should have control over it, because their way of controlling things was make a law and pass a legislation, and through that you control everything. They have created many stupid laws which are completely illogical. Like there was a policy of lapse. They said any king who is not having a child cannot adopt a child and his kingdom will be merged with the British. What kind of nonsensical law it is? It is my property, my kingdom. In case I want to adopt some child, I want to give her. Who are you to stop it? So similarly, what they did, they used to create laws, even stupid laws, illogical laws, just to control you. So this endowment law was initially created by the British. The Muslims and Christians, they knew they will not accept it. They did not accept. Hindus were docile people, simple people, peace-loving people. So, and their target was achieved by enacting and implementing these laws on Hindu temples. And particularly temples in South were very rich. In North India, because of continuous invasion from the barbaric races from Central Asia and West Asia, almost all the temples were destroyed. That is why you will not find a single temple which is more than 200-300 years old in North India. Whereas in South you will find temples being old 1,200 years. So what has happened? They wanted to have control over the temples. That is why these rules are mostly applicable in Tamil Nadu and southern states. So unfortunately, after independence of India, Jawaharlal Nehru continued the same policy. And he renewed he reenacted, if I remember correctly, I think it was 1959. The law was reenacted under K. Kamraj. So that is why, if you see, other than Hindu temples, no other religion is being controlled by the government. The result is, like I'll give one example. What is happening? Hindu properties are being given to, in certain cases, to church, to the for all kind of things like opening, in the name of opening a school, college. Whose college it is, nobody knows. Second thing is that whatever money comes, that goes to government treasury. I have given a lot of data. Hardly any money goes for the repair and upkeepment of the temple. The temples were basically places where education was imparted, where poor were given food, education. They were actually basically the center of our culture. That entire thing has been destroyed. So government has taken the control. Now after taking money from the temples, these governments, they subsidize Hajj travel to Saudi Arabia to the extent 954 crore rupees. 954 crore rupees was the last amount that the government of India used to give to Hajis. You just imagine. Money coming from Hindu temples going in government treasury, then government giving to Hajis to go for Hajj. What kind of secularism it is? That means Hindus are funding the Hajj of Muslims. So we are directly encouraging the spread of Islam. are giving facilities and the caste of Hindus to the Muslims or Christians. So that is why I said this law needs to be completely repealed, and something like Shiromani Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee, which manages the Gurudwara, as government has no interference. We should have Shiromani Mandir Prabandhak Committee, an autonomous body. All the income should go to it, and it should be utilized for growth of Hindus, for Sanatan Dharma, for teaching our religion, for teaching our Shastras, for upkeepment and construction of new temples.
Well, finally, how do you think people can get your book? So how do you think, should they reach out to get the book, or is it available in Amazon, Flipkart? Where can people?
Yes, the book is available on Flipkart as well as on Amazon, and the book is available on Kindle also. So, in case somebody wants a hard copy, they can get it from Amazon or Flipkart. And in case if there is any problem, they can write directly to 𝗣𝗲𝗻𝗻 Publications. The address is given in the book. And I have the website also. Through website, they can get the book. They can order the book. 𝗣𝗲𝗻𝗻Publications.com. If somebody Googles, he will find the website. So this can be obtained from multiple sources, but primary is the Amazon and Flipkart.
Right. So you can just get this book, a copy of this book from Amazon or Flipkart, or I guess the publication house is 𝗣𝗲𝗻𝗻 Publication. In
That's
case
right.
if you have any issues, you can just write to them, and you can get a copy of your book. Thank you very much, Major Ji, for joining us and talking in detail about the book that you have written. Hopefully, people will understand and also share your thoughts.
Namaskar. Thank you so much for having me here. And I request to you that every person should read this book. They will understand what is going on in our nation. That needs to be changed. Thank you so much. Namaskaram. Vanakkam.
Namaskar.